Check.
This is Random Urban Memories, brought to you by The Rum Boys. You've seen, heard, or felt it on the streets. Well, we're here to talk about it.
In 3, 2, 1.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us again. And I have the privilege and the honor to have my good friend Kevin from his YouTube channel, Tech Showdown, on with me again to do a follow-up and a follow-through on how he's been doing and what's been going on. Kevin, you're very welcome.
No, the honor's all mine, Shane. It's always good. Like doing these with you. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions you have in regards to tech industry or anything else. I'm based in Taipei in Taiwan now, so I'm a lot more centralized, I guess, in the tech industry. And I hear a few things, I guess, now that people in the West don't hear. As far as I know, I'm the only Western tech reviewer actually based in Taipei, so I'm sort of the only one now in the heart of it that's actually a reviewer putting videos on YouTube. So it's been a different experience than compared back to New Zealand, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, you're close to the source then. Source says.
Yeah. And
why don't you tell us? Your viewers know that you have moved, but and I'd seen in your videos that you try as best as possible to try and convey your travels over there and what you've been kind of dealing with setting up. But when we had talked off camera before, you told me other things, like you had major hurdles to face while actually being there, apart from just moving issues and getting your equipment over. It wasn't that easy, was it? Like, it's a whole new world open up and whole new issues open up in regards to your channel and in regards to you actually getting settled in a new world. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. So it was, I would say that if anyone out there has ever moved, they will know they moved even house, moved to a different part of their country. If you're in America or Australia, move to a different state. And especially if you move overseas, it is very difficult. Moving here was, I think, because there was obviously cultural differences and many other things, was quite difficult, and not having anything lined up as well. It was basically like pack up your life as best as you can and move somewhere, and then you just have to make it happen when you get there. You know, there wasn't any a huge amount of pre-planning or anything. It's not that we came here blind, but it was there weren't anything, like we didn't have a concrete place to live, we didn't have jobs lined up or anything like that. And so obviously those were things that needed to be sorted out. Getting the rig over here both rigs was an absolute nightmare. So initially they were just going to be shipped as is. That ended up being not possible because the cost was enormous. So they basically just got pulled down to the core components. So motherboard, CPU, memory, and the drives. And then that was just sent over. So I have my personal rig, which is Intel based, and then my second rig, which is the second test rig, which is the one my girlfriend uses. That's an AMD based rig. And so that all had to be broken down. That took a while to get here too. So there was just a lot of delays and a lot of complication here, learning all the different things, finding a place to live, finding employment, because to be able to stay, to get to stay here, you have to be working unless you invest a ton of money. So I had to sort that out. There was just a lot to do. So it was definitely, I would say, a positive experience overall. I definitely wanted a situation to challenge myself, because I felt, and I think a lot of people out there can feel like this, your life can become very routine to the point that you never challenge yourself anymore. And even though I knew I would hate it initially, and I sort of did for probably like the first few weeks, I knew ultimately it would be a positive, and ultimately it would be a good thing to challenge myself and shake myself so much out of the lifestyle I had, like do a complete lifestyle flip basically, and that's what's happened here. So overall, it was a good thing, and I definitely would recommend to anyone that I just couldn't imagine in my mind living in one country for the entirety of my life. And so I know that may not be possible for other people that have other commitments or other things, but even for those people, I would say you definitely should do sort of long-term trips if possible, like 1 month, 2 month trips, maybe to a whole region, like do all of Europe or do, as much of North America as you can or wherever. And just get out there because it's really eye-opening. And I think it's been pretty good. So obviously that was a big change and there was a lot to do. On top of it, I had a bunch of health problems, which I think a lot of it was attributed to the fact that you're in a new place, there's new germs, and there's all of that stuff. And so that's obviously taken a bit of a toll on me as well, as everyone has seen with the videos coming out so infrequently. My whole schedule's been thrown out of whack because I've been sick 1 week and then sort of gotten better and then got sick again. So, and it's quite bizarre for me because I'm not a person that gets sick often. I think it was just a whole big adjustment period for my body physically, and then all the, actual sorting everything out of my life. So yeah, difficult, but definitely no regrets now, or not even at the start. I knew it would be hard, and I think anyone out there that I would definitely recommend it in terms of changing a lifestyle as well. For me, it was going from a not entirely like this, but it was sort of like going from the sort of suburbia lifestyle into a Western suburbia lifestyle into an Asian city sort of lifestyle. So those are quite different. Even someone who's come from the suburbs and moves to a Western city, that can be quite the change. But going from that to an Asian city like Taipei, yeah. So big change there, but overall a good thing, and I do think it's good for everyone to try. If you have the means to, definitely challenge yourself in this way, because I think it makes you stronger and makes you a better person overall. It shows that you could achieve something like that as well, which is hard, and it's scary going to a place where you don't have an actual home anymore. Like your home is basically everything you're carrying with you. So
it's kind of good to shake yourself out of complacency a little bit. You know what I mean? Like that.
Exactly.
That level of uncomfortableness can actually, drive you then to keep going. You know. The move itself, how did it affect your channel, your access to equipment, and having to reestablish yourself? Now, as you said, you think at the moment that you're the only Western YouTuber there. What was those hurdles that your viewers mightn't have even known about?
So that's a great question. So I think the move sort of knocked my channel out for about a month because I didn't have my rig or anything, and there was just, even if I did, I didn't. There was too many other things to sort out. I couldn't actually make decent content or anything like that. So it was just that whole month of sorting all that stuff out. So that was difficult, but I expected it, and I did tell everyone beforehand that will be the case. So I was under no illusions about it. As far as with the companies and reestablishing myself, I would say as of right now, it's been very difficult for the sense of, back in New Zealand, I worked heavily with Playtech, who are a big retailer, and that was very good because they gave me access to a lot of things. But because of that, I made videos that would be quite unpopular with certain companies, and especially with the graphics card companies, because I would do comparisons, what the channel is based on, GPU comparisons to each other. And I had heard from multiple board partners that they had told me that basically to stop doing them. They didn't like that I did them. But because I had Playtech supplying me with parts, it was never an issue. Now that I'm here, it's it's really coming back to bite me a little bit because, and it's not that I regret it. I think those videos really are what started my channel and the ones I most enjoy doing. But it's been very difficult here. Pretty much every board partner and Nvidia themselves, I cannot get a reply from now. I even went to Nvidia's headquarters here in Taipei, and I walked in and I was like, hey, can you tell their marketing team to, like, you know, send me an email? I gave them my card. Yeah. Nothing. Yeah. Like, it's stunning the level of being blocked out that I am.
Yeah.
So that's been interesting. That's on the graphics card front. So that's why there hasn't been any GPU content, but I will always figure out a way around it. Otherwise, I will set up another deal with either a retailer here and do the same thing again, or I'll just straight up buy everything. Like, that's how I initially launched my channel. I just built up a bunch of money and just bought and sold GPUs. I just buy them brand new and then sell them, lose a few, lose like $100, and then just do it again and again and again. Yeah. And you do lose money every time, but obviously it's I get to make the videos, and it's a cost I can eat. So it's that'll be something that I would just go back to doing. So yeah, it's been difficult with the CPUs. It's been fine. Intel and AMD switched me over to the contacts here, and that hasn't been an issue. And with all the peripheral companies, that also hasn't been an issue. So it's really just the graphics card companies that are being a little bit problematic. Everyone else hasn't been an issue. It's actually sort of a very weird balance on the channel. It's basically I almost could change the name to Peripheral Showdown, because there's so many companies will send me that, or CPU Showdown, because it's no issues with the CPUs, it's no issues with any peripherals, but it's just graphics cards, which were they're always, I think, one of the most difficult things for reviewers to get their hands on. But now it's just pretty much from me. That because of the Showdown videos, which they heavily dislike, they only want you to do just straight up reviews. That they're very harsh. If you give a negative review, then they'll be, you'll probably never get a sample of them ever again. So the graphics card companies can be quite ruthless like that. I'm paying the price for it now, so I'll have to figure out a way around it. But ultimately, I wouldn't want to be beholden to the companies. Ultimately, I always want to be supported by the fans, and if enough joins my channel memberships or whatever, that would be fine. I could make enough with that and doing sponsor deals and other things that I just wouldn't even need to go to them. I can just straight up buy whatever I would want, test it, and then sell it. And that way I never have to worry about, should I say this or should I say that? Not that that's an issue for me at the moment, because I always just tell the truth anyway, but it's that you don't have to deal with the companies afterwards when you give them a negative review and they go, why did you say this? Why did you say that? I think you're mistaken about this. I think you're
justifying everything that you did then.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's easier if you can just go buy the product, and put it up against another one and then make the videos and then just sell them afterwards. But obviously here it's going to be difficult for probably the next few months. Because moving costs a lot of money, especially if you move countries. However much money you think you have that you bring with you, that'll be enough. I'm bringing heaps. It runs out.
That's what you think.
Yeah, and I think it's the same for anyone that's ever been working, working full time or whatever, and then they lose their job, and you go, I've got savings backed up, and I can last like a month or two, and then you get to that month, and you're like, wow, I went through that much money this quick. Like the savings start running out really quickly, and I think that was the case for us, and now it's just rebuilding that. So fortunately here, the cost of living is extremely low compared to New Zealand. So that's quite good. And foreigners here can be paid quite well. compared to locals anyway, depending on which type of job you get. So that is something I would strive towards, but it does help when the fans help you out as well, because it's like if I'm spending thousands of dollars of my own money every few months providing content, it's sort of that helps the fans make the viewers make informed decisions that maybe save them money. I think it's fair to help out channels like that, and I certainly do as well. So when there's a channel that makes really good content or whatever, they want to be supported purely just by their fans, which is something I was thinking about making a video about, because I find this is just sort of a slight tangent, but I find it funny on YouTube now that the viewers oftentimes, if they see a video with a sponsor spot in it or whatever, and then they complain about it and say, oh well, why are you running an ad spot or something like that. I think it's so funny because you're putting up the content for free. It can take a long time to make. It can involve a lot of testing, and sometimes you have to buy all the products yourself. So that there's that cost. And then those same people are the ones that are usually the least likely to ever donate or support you with their own money, and yet they'll complain that you go, do a sponsor deal or something like that. It's like, you can't have it both ways. Pick one or the other. If you don't want to support the creators, fine. But then when they run sponsors, don't complain.
Exactly.
And if you guys are, if there's a ton of people supporting the creator and they still run heaps of sponsor spots, then maybe you might have a case. But depending on what type of reviews or videos they're making, they could be very expensive. So I've always felt there's that sort of funny disconnect. I think it's usually from people that are very young that don't really live in the real world yet, like they're still in school or wherever.
They don't know what came before. They just know what's going to come after. They're going to... For them, they assume everything is free, But
I think that's that.
Do you know what, Kevin? I think I would like to see a video like that, because as a content creator myself, even though we're on the audio podcast side of things, it's just because I do follow a lot of you guys, especially reviewers online, and I do let the ads run through. I always and I comment where necessary. I don't just spam comment, but all of these things helps in rankings. All of these things has an influence in some shape or form in YouTube's algorithm. And like you said, this is in some way giving back, or Patreon accounts or whatever it is. And that is a very small sacrifice to make if you just have to wait a bloody 3 seconds for an ad to run through. That is it. Or even a sponsored post for 8 seconds. That is it. But you're getting 8 minutes to half an hour of free content. So that I think that would be a very good and an honest video as well, Exactly. And I think a lot of us are very generous on the tech reviewer side. Like we often do a lot of reviews. I've got a few giveaways, I should say. We do a lot of giveaways. I've got quite a few giveaways planned. I'm not advertising them anymore like I used to, because I felt that was unfair to... There were some people I felt like that were subscribing and would only watch giveaway videos and just join in the giveaway, where I wanted them to be for the fans that were watching every video or every other video type thing, like they're always tuning in. And so all my giveaways now, it will not say giveaway in the title or immediately in the description. It will be something that I more or less hide in other videos. So once people watch them, then they realize, oh wow, this is actually a giveaway. So I might be reviewing a product, and then near the end I'll be like, okay, so I'm actually giving away. I'm actually going to give this away to one of you guys. So the people that actually tuned in and watched will be able to be a part of the giveaway. I think that will be a lot better going forward. So that's something I'll be doing more in the future. I got a bunch of them planned right now. So that's fun. And, that's just it's just one of those sort of things that I find quite funny, and I see it on not just my channel but on a lot of them as well, that you need to understand, I guess, that it does cost money running these channels and sorting out all these things, especially if you're giving away items that we've bought ourselves. It does add up, and
helping out channels where you can is a very good thing, because people always sort of wonder, and then someone says, oh, I can't do my YouTube channel anymore because I just can't afford it. I need to, work more hours at work to make ends meet or something. And you always see comments then of people like, oh, well, I'll help you out now. And it's only like when it gets to that point where it's the person's, where they might have been asking for help here and there for like a year. It's just a funny thing. But ultimately, I think it's up to the people to if they feel like your content is worth supporting. And so as a creator, you just have to leave it up to them, really. And if they decide you're not worth, supporting, then you'll have to make ends meet otherwise, in other ways. So, it's a difficult sort of thing, but something that I think more people need to think about more deeply first before they just write comments about it.
And now getting on to a little bit of tech as well. After the release of the 9900K, the 2080 Ti, the info's seeping through about Ryzen 2 and now AMD's 7 nanometer core, nanometer architecture. These are all, I know they come in scoops and everything, but I mean, if I read correctly, they're going to stop production of the 1080 Ti, which means stocks will dwindle relatively quickly. And these are all blowout amazing, or potentially for the others, amazing products. But the price line is incredibly high. But now we have to come down and start meeting the middle again. So the mid to high performance, that kind of thing. What do you see the coming year? Let's just say a year, because there'll be new releases next year. So where do you see that level coming in and meeting the viability of actually paying for some of these products?
Yeah, so I think it's with all those things, the tech has been getting more expensive for a while. And this is sort of parallels the PC tech market, parallels the phone market, in the sense that everything just keeps getting more and more expensive.
And more and more accepted.
Yeah, and people just end up paying it.
Yeah.
And so the 9900K is inherently not a bad CPU. It's what I run in my personal rig, and it's a very, very powerful CPU. Goes up to 5 gigahertz out of the box, 8 cores. It's powerful. Yeah, it runs pretty hard, but the main issue is that it's just so expensive. Like it's really, really expensive for what it is. And on the value for money front, it's hard to justify. And that goes for the 2080 Ti as well. On the value for money front, it just falls down big time. But both of them are still the very high performance. If you want the fastest CPU for gaming, 9900K. If you want the fastest GPU for gaming, 2080 Ti. So there's people out there that will eat that cost. They will go into a store and buy a 9900K and a 2080 Ti, and it will cost them a fortune, and the value for money isn't very good. But they don't care about that. They just care about, ultimate performance. And that's not a bad thing. There's always going to be people like that are in highly paid jobs, or they're just an ultra enthusiast.
There's always going to be someone who won't even blink buying any of those things. Like that's fine,
Exactly, but I think it is a trend that's going up, and maybe not on the CPU front, because AMD has been sort of lowering prices over time, which is good. On the GPU front, as long as Nvidia's got their monopoly pretty much, then especially on the high end, they will just keep increasing the pricing. So I feel like it's one of those things where the market requires a correction in the sense that there needs to be more competition, especially on the GPU front. And on the CPU space, I think it's good. Like Intel are really feeling the heat now, and AMD are making great CPUs, especially in regards to value for money. But even outside of that, in straight up performance, they're very good. It's just in the GPU department. So yeah, moving forward with the 7 nanometer stuff, that will be impressive. We'll have to see, but I think for most of us out there, all of us tech reviewers, what we are most hoping to see, I would say, in the next 6 months is AMD releasing high-end GPUs which can compete with the 2070, 2080, and 2080 Ti at pricing that is lower than what theirs are. So maybe it will deliver only the same performance as the 2080, but maybe it's $100 cheaper or something like that. Hopefully we see something along those lines, but at this stage, there's a bit of rumor out there, but it's always hard to tell. I feel like we don't have the full picture, so it's sort of hard to speculate. But
you're feeding into the hype machine otherwise, then.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it can be a little bit difficult, but certainly we've seen in the CPU space that the competition is good. Like really healthy competition between two companies can result in higher performance at lower cost, at least in regards to AMD. But I mean, it may not be lowering than the cost on the Intel side, but they've certainly jumped up in performance. I mean, Intel were just running quad cores for ages, and then now they're up to an 8-core on the mainstream line.
AMD seems to fill all these little gaps in between here and there. And I think that is a fantastic thing to have, because right now in the chip market, there is a chip and power to price ratio for absolutely everybody, from $110, and still quite acceptable performance. Well, of course, to whatever it is that you need, right up to then $1,200, $1,300. But each niche, mostly by an AMD, is filled in the meantime. And I think that is good. That is really good. And it would be nice to see that in the graphics card market now.
Yeah, and I think we will, because out of those three companies, Intel, AMD, and Nvidia, I would say that AMD and Lisa Su, who I think is a fantastic CEO, she's incredibly smart, and she also, I would say, has she's very good at reading the market in terms of, like, as you were saying, filling in those gaps. Like, she just sees where there's a gap, or where AMD could do something better, or where gamers and enthusiasts, PC enthusiasts, would just really like it if they did this one thing. So take, for example, soldering the CPUs. Yeah, AMD's been doing that. Letting you overclock any CPU. AMD's been doing that with the Ryzens. You know, well, even a bit before, let's just talk about the Ryzen line. Like, she certainly saw what everyone wanted and just delivered. And it's resulted in, you know, AMD bouncing back in a way that quite a few people, I mean, a few years ago, everyone was saying AMD was going to be bankrupt and they were going to be bought by Samsung. And then, you know, Lisa Su's just, you know, Ryzen, I feel like, was their last big sort of chance. Like they went all in on Ryzen. We're like, look, we've only got one more chance in terms of, for monetary reasons. And Lisa was saying, like, this is where we need to hit. I think what a lot of people forget, especially gamers, is that the real money is in the server CPU domain. That's where Intel make a fortune. And AMD, once all their server CPUs start really taking a hold, and we're seeing it more and more now, more big companies switching over to AMD for their server CPUs, that is just the cash cow. Like, once you start milking the server CPU market, getting good market share back in that, AMD will just, the money will be flowing like crazy. It's obviously good.
Phoenix again.
Yeah. There's gaming and enthusiast markets are good. No one's saying, you know, that if obviously AMD really want that market as well. But in terms of the margins, the server CPUs are where it's at, and they can make a ton of money there. And that's where Intel will really feel the heat, because they've basically had a monopoly within that space. And that's where it'll start to really hurt them. So, no, I think it's very good. And I think she just needs to keep that up, keep listening, not get complacent, and for AMD to keep innovating in a way that they will keep up this good momentum they've built up. on the CPU front, and hopefully some of that transfers over to the GPU front. And so we're hearing sort of January, February, we should have a good idea on these 7 nanometer gaming GPUs from AMD. And let's hope that they will offer Nvidia a good kick up the backside in terms of disrupting the market in a way and taking some market share away from them on the enthusiast side as well, because I think that would be extremely good. So we'll just have to see, but at this stage, that's how I would define those 3 companies. Intel definitely seems to be the one that's the most stuck in its ways in terms of it will change, but it's sort of like they begrudgingly will change something. Oh, we have to add more core count. It's fine. Okay, we'll do it. We have to solve the CPUs down. Fine, we'll do it. They just drag their feet.
But it's shifting Goliath in that kind of sense. It's
So they really drag their feet. Nvidia can be quite good. Nvidia's definitely. I mean, that they do innovate quite well in plenty of ways. I think the latest launch was, I think they put, it's too hard to say right now with all the ray tracing stuff, but I think maybe they overestimated how much impact that might have. And I feel like they maybe put too many of their eggs in one basket. That may be wrong, but to launch GPUs which are made to, they changed the entire name from GTX to RTX just around the ray tracing stuff, and then they launched the GPUs, and there isn't even any games that can utilize it.
Yeah,
that's just I don't know what they were thinking. I know there's reasons, there were delays and other things, but I think it left a bit of a bad taste. And once everyone saw the pricing as well, and it's not been a good launch for Nvidia. I would say this recent launch is probably their worst one they've done in an extremely long time, and left a very bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. So, I think Nvidia need to do a better job of knowing what gamers and enthusiasts want, because I feel like they were good at that in the past, and they've definitely fallen a bit by the wayside now, considering when you compare Pascal's launch. Like Pascal, when that launched, like the hype was crazy and everyone loved it. That all these new features they were bringing out, everyone really liked it, but they've kind of missed the mark this time.
Yeah, they didn't read the room, as they say, read the room.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And
in terms of these, the showcases and reveals, actually, do you know what the ray tracing reminds me of a little bit? Hairworks. It's just on a much, much larger scale, but a feature that is just hanging in the background somewhere, But again, we'll see what time will bring. But DLSS could be maybe the more important aspects of the cards.
Yeah, for sure.
Or more interesting, I should say, and more applicable then.
Yeah, it's really hard to say right now. I mean, it would be a better thing to sort of look back on in like 12 months after, and then you could really see. But as of right now, it's sort of all up in the air, so it's anyone's guess.
And in general, I just want your opinion. It's just a general one. It's just because I've watched a couple of showcases and reveals. Do you think less is best? Because we've seen some pretty rubbish ones, or ones where, like I said, they didn't read the room, or BlizzCon just now recently where they announced the mobile game and there was war over it. I didn't follow particularly, but I was following the headlines on it. It's just your general opinion on these launches. Like, have they gotten more rubbish? Have they gotten better? Or should they really pull back and read the room?
I think it's the fact that, the BlizzCon one was an absolute shocker. That's just completely not knowing your fan base. I think the issue for a lot of them is that the marketing departments at a lot of tech companies, the people that run them, the marketing managers and that, they usually come out of university with some sort of strategic marketing degree. They don't know anything about tech, yet they get hired at a tech company, and they just only really know one way how to do things, which is overhyping,
bombastic.
bombastic. They only know, and they tend to just go back to more old-fashioned style of advertisement in a way that a lot of viewers do not respond to very well, especially direct advertisement, which I feel like this sort of online generation just does not respond to particularly well. They much prefer indirect advertisement in a way that's not shifty, like they still know they're being advertised to, but it doesn't feel like it's being shoved down your throat. And I think that's the issue. I've dealt with a lot of people at different tech companies in terms of marketing people. Some of them have been fantastic. They're really onto it, especially the ones that were gamers or enthusiasts before. Plenty of those people, they really get it. They 100% understand. Unfortunately, in many cases, their bosses just simply do not. And so they're always kind of they just can't do what they know is right because they know it'll never be approved. And that is something I have seen time and time again. And it's just an issue with the industry. They need to, even if they have these people in marketing departments, they need to at least hire or consult with like tech reviewers who are constantly have their finger on the pulse of what the enthusiasts and the gamers like. Just someone to bounce things off of. You don't need that person to necessarily run or even work in the marketing department, but just someone to talk to about it. Hey, we've got these new features. What do you think? All that type of stuff. Because when I've done that in the past on a more casual basis with different companies, I've been astounded to tell them things that I just thought they already knew and they just had no idea about. Like they were like, oh, what your viewers would like that, that they like this. And I've said, they can be massively out of touch. And I think that's one of the biggest issues plaguing many tech companies as far as their marketing goes now, because a lot of them just have very old school mindsets. They're very stuck in their ways and they just don't know how to market to an audience that has a changing mindset about advertisement, really. And it's just not working. So in many cases, so it's, but as far as the actual launches specifically, to get back to your question, less is more is definitely the key thing. Most people just want to know when you bring out your new products, your new CPU, your new GPU, whatever it is. Okay, so what's obviously new about it? What are the new features? You got to talk about that. In what sort of range will the performance be? And they're always going to pick best case scenarios. They're going to show their GPU compared to the previous one or against a competitor's one in the best light possible. So everyone always takes it with a grain of salt. If you don't, then you're just full. You really should know better. Like when they show you this stuff, look at the fine print, look at the details, but obviously realize you're being shown it in the best light possible. So show them a bit of performance, give them an idea. You don't always need to do that. AMD's like with Threadripper when that initially launched, they were just putting out Cinebench scores, like just the straight up Cinebench scores. And that was, truthful. I mean, all of us tested them and they got the same as what AMD was saying. So they don't always overdo it. And that alone was just blew people away. And then, of course,
minimalist.
And then just talk about the price, and that sort of thing. And maybe if it comes with anything else. So that's how you do it. Just touch on those three things. So go out on the stage. Okay. So we have this new product. This is the new features. Elaborate on them a bit more. This is the performance, talk about that, and this is the price, and these are the different models, and these will be the different prices. That's it. Walk off the stage. A lot of times it's like half an hour filler at the start and half an hour of stuff at the end.
Yeah.
And more so now to keep people watching, they'll have like a 2-hour broadcast, and the first hour is just stuff that like the people watching don't, like the gamers and enthusiasts watching, just don't even care. They're like, well, this is what the company's been doing. This is like what we've been thinking. This is like, and it's just like, just tell us already. So just keep it, I would say just like 45 minutes, 15 minutes each section, 15 minutes to talk about the new features, 15 minutes to talk about performance, and 15 minutes to talk about, you know, the price and sort of availability dates and all that, different pricing on the different products. And all that stuff. So you can talk about all that side of it too. Maybe you'd want a bit more on the features, a bit less on the price, but you get what I mean. Like, you don't want it to drag on, which is the issue now. Some companies have been doing this better than others. I would say, yeah, that not all of them do it in this sort of heavy-handed way. Apple, to be fair, can do quite good at some of their launches. They tend to not draw it out any more than they have to. AMD sometimes have done that too. Nvidia definitely seems like the most guilty one for it. But yeah, I think you just do that type of thing. That's definitely the way to do it.
That was pretty extreme. It was like, it felt like 14 and a half weeks of the focus of ray tracing before they even gave any other details. So that was pretty harsh actually on the consumers, on the customers, and the fans waiting, you know.
Yeah, I think it was just too much to shove down their throats. Like they were just going, and Intel with the 9th gen launch, the actual launch itself wasn't too bad. It's probably actually one of the best ones Intel's done in a while. But then with the whole paid benchmarks thing afterwards, that just poisoned the whole thing. So it's like they haven't even done anything. So that that was bad too. So that was if they had just not done that and they had just and I don't know what they were thinking. Like, this again is just someone in their marketing department is just so out of touch. Okay, we're going to have an NDA for all the other reviewers. They can't put up their videos until this specific date and time. But what we'll do is, you know, like a week and a half early, 2 weeks early, we're going to let this other company put out all the performance numbers, but they're going to be numbers that are very skewed in favor of Intel. And, oh, wait, everyone's suddenly calling us out about them. It's like, of course, everyone's going to be focused on those numbers and really looking at them because they're the only ones out there. If they had put those numbers up when the NDA lifted, there probably would have still been some pushback, but it may have gone a bit, it would have gone under the radar a bit more because everyone's reviews would have been out there and people would have gone, oh, well, you know, they just got different numbers or whatever, or their testing was different or, you know. But the fact that they did it before when all of us were still under NDA, we couldn't show our performance numbers. As soon as I saw the numbers, I knew there was something off. Like, I think anyone that's been watching like CPU reviews for at least 12 months knew immediately that something was off. And that was just again, completely out of touch. That was just a very, very stupid move, and it completely destroyed the 9th gen launch as far as I'm concerned. I think nothing against Intel. The 9900K I think got off to a very poor start because of that. With an otherwise, you know, good CPU, not good in terms of value for money, but it is very powerful.
It's an amazing CPU. It just left a sour taste in everyone's mouth.
Yeah, very powerful. Yeah, it's not good value for money, but neither is a Lamborghini or Ferrari, and people still buy those. Yeah, that's the thing. There's people out there that earn $100,000-$200,000 US a year. Maybe, you know, like people are earning 6 digits a year US. In the tech industry, it's not that uncommon. Programmers, you know, network engineers, all those guys, they're on high salaries, and they're into tech. They'll go down. They don't mind dropping that money on an expensive, well, what we may think of as is expensive to them. They just don't care. They just want the highest performance. They'll just buy it. So for them, they're not going to mind. And the 9900K is a very good CPU. But for most people that are not on such high incomes, and we do have to be more concerned with value for money, then yes, the 9900K is a bit harder to accept. And I think that if they didn't have all this issue with the launch, I think that's pretty much how it would have just gone down, is the people who buy, the people who are more concerned with value for money would just not buy it. And the people that aren't concerned with value for money and just want ultimate performance would buy it. And that would be it.
It would have gone off without comment. Yeah.
Yeah, there would have been that division there, but that would have been it. And so I think because of all that poisoning it made it even worse. And then it made it seem like, well, if you bought a 9900K, you're just an idiot, which I don't think anyone is if they do buy it. I just think that because of the launch went that way, it already got off to a really bad start, which didn't help Intel in any way.
All right, so let's we'll leave the world of tech, and how about let's give your viewers a little bit of an insight of you. You on your Twitter, on your channel, you get these tiny little bits of snippets of here and there. So, for example, and I've been following you for quite some time now, actually. And I don't know if you ever mentioned what kind of games do you actually play when you get the time to? I mean, I'm just assuming that you sit there all day playing games, or that, like I said, that you even have the time to. But when you do kick it, what kind of games would you play? Can you play?
So lately, I always sort of, I've always felt a bit strange about the people that always tell you I'm just, like I'm way too busy to do anything like this. It's like some people I genuinely know are really, really busy people that are just like they're got like a family and they do mega hours at work, and I really understand. But I think a lot of people out there often overemphasize how busy they are because they think it makes them seem better or more important. And I've never been a person like that. I like to just be completely honest with my time and stuff like that. So luckily with my work, I'm mainly working sort of late afternoon into the evening. And so I have the time during the day in which I can make the videos and stuff like that and do testing. I think a lot of people don't understand that actually shooting the video is the shortest part of the process of actually, it's a very short. So the actual making the video is the short part, and then the editing part is usually the longest, along with, depending on what I'm testing, the testing part can be the longest as well. And there's obviously filming B-roll and stuff like that too can take a while, but the whole process takes a lot longer than I think a lot of people think it does. So during the day, I'll often be doing that sort of thing. In between, I do, like housework, all that sort of stuff like that. But I have a rule. This is just for me personally. This is something I've sort of enforced on myself since I went to uni, which was back a long time, years ago now. Which was that I wasn't allowed to, I would only play games at nighttime. That's the only time. I never play them during the day, only at nighttime. Even if I'm not doing things during the day, it's like, I'll always find something else to do, or there is something else I should be doing. I always feel like, so I just do that. That was good when I was at uni, because with my degree, I would have to be there for 9 a.m., but it was kind of far away from where I live, so I'd always leave at about 7:45, and then I would be home by about 1, so our days weren't particularly long, but then we'd have a lot of assignments or whatever to do. I had to write a thesis in my last year, which was just gigantic. And so from the time I got home, which would take about an hour to get home as well, so you get home about 2 o'clock, I would just do that until dinner time, so about 6 o'clock, and I would just do that. And then I knew after I'd have dinner, then it was like free time after that. And I think because I did that, it meant I had very good self-motivation and not to get distracted, and that's kind of carried on with YouTube. And so that's what I sort of do. I always see it as like nighttime is like the sort of break time, and during the day it's always like filming, doing YouTube, and
productivity
working
time
as well. Yeah, productivity time, get it done, And because it's too easy, especially YouTubers, you have to be very self-motivated to do this, to make the content, because there's days you wake up and you're like, with everyone else, it's like you have your boss or you have whatever, and you're like, oh, if I don't go to work, I'll get in trouble. But with YouTube, it's like I am the boss. So it's like if I don't want to make a video today, I just don't make the video. And it's like not like I get in trouble for it. So I hold myself to a certain standard when I can to try put out videos sort of every other day, if possible. And so for that reason, I try to do that. But yeah, so time-wise, I do often have some time in the evening to play games, but more or less a lot of that time I'll just sort of catch up on YouTube videos. You know, maybe do that sort of thing. But on the times I do play, sort of the main game I've defaulted to for a long time now. I think I've put in about 270 hours into it over the last 18 months or so. Would be Hearts of Iron 4, which is like a World War II strategy game where you sort of can control a country and sort of control the army and all the stuff to do with that country during World War II. So it's a quite it's very much a sort of slower paced strategic game that it definitely chews up a ton of time, and that'll be something that I'll play at nighttime, because it's a game what I like to do is I don't need to hear anything in the game while I'm playing it, because it's not like an action game where you need to listen. So I listen to podcasts and that when I play it at nighttime. So it's kind of like a good doing two things at once. I'll usually listen to like maybe Joe Rogan or someone else, and I can listen to that while I play the game. And then I feel like it's kind of like education at the same time, because I can really take in, even though I'm playing the game, it's kind of because it's a slower paced strategy game. I'm not so entirely focused that it kind of all goes through. I'm kind of half listening, half playing the game, so I still take everything in. And that's what I've been doing for probably about the last year now, has been my sort of main go-to. And I usually will play that game like maybe once a week, twice a week type thing. And I really enjoy it going back. I've kind of, because I put in so many hours, I've pretty much played every country in the world. It's pretty fun to do different ones, and that's a fun game, I would say, if you're looking for sort of one of those more relaxing wind down type games that you can play. That's while you chuck something on in the background and you can just chill out to that and have a bit of fun. And that's a good game for it, although it's extremely complicated, which is another reason I like it, because it has a very long learning curve. So it took me probably about 50 hours just to get somewhat good at it. So I also like games like that too. So yeah, that's my main go-to. And then here and there, I'll just play other games. If there's a new game that comes out, like I just got the new Tomb Raider game, so I'll probably play that. And stuff like that. But most games now I can usually, play through them relatively quickly. If I sort of will, I don't like just playing games sort of casually one night. It's like if I'm going to play a game that night,
you're going to play it. I hear you.
Yeah,
I hear you.
It's like
like you said, it's for a while, I think for nearly a year, I just simply didn't play very much at all, because I was very focused on work and family. But even when I did sit down, I did have a little segment of the evening where, say at the weekend, and I did technically have, I don't know, before we have to get up early in the morning, I'd have 4 hours maybe that I can chill in front of the computer, and I would more so gravitate to catching up on my news, my podcast, my YouTube, my whatever it is. And gaming kind of nearly fell out of favor just for a little bit, but now I'm starting to come back into it because I've got the PC set up and everything else. So now I'm beating my way through Assassin's Creed Odyssey now.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So that's why I just wanted to know actually what it is that you do game when you game. And
yeah, I obviously play other games too. I mean, I get sick and tired of just playing the same game over and over. And I used to play a lot of Rainbow Six Siege with my friends as well, and that was a fun one. I played a bit of War Thunder too, so it's not, because I mean, playing Hearts of Iron is fun and it's quite relaxing, especially if I listen to podcasts and stuff in the background. But it is, I just play it by myself, so I still like to play with my friends when I can. So there's other games that I will play, but yeah, it's that I would say, as far as my go-to game, that would be it. And I think a lot of people have a game like that. They'll play, like Civ is another one that you can do that with, or
City Skylines.
City Skyline, that's a good one. EU4, any of those sort of more strategic type ones where you can, turn the sound effects way down, and then you can put something else on the background, play your game, and listen to it. Yeah, City Skyline was a good one. I used to just listen to the news and podcasts and stuff and play that game. Any of those ones, that's what really appeals to me now that I've gotten a bit older, because then it's not that I feel guilty, it's just I feel like if I can do... it's very hard for me. I'm not sure if I'm the only one like it, but it's very hard for me to just sit down like a 2-hour podcast and just watch a podcast. Like it's difficult. Even if I was watching this back, like to see what I said, I would probably be doing it while I'm doing something else at the same time. I think and that's not necessarily a bad thing at all.
No.
I think it's kind of good for a lot of young people do that, because instead of just listening to, you could play those strategic games or whatever, and just listen to music. Or if you have a long commute in your car each day, maybe an hour there, hour back to your work, instead of just listening to music, you can put on, download a podcast or just play it off, your device or whatever. And you can listen to them instead of just listening to music. Nothing against music, but it's, you know what I mean? Like music's nice and it's fun, but a podcast, you might actually learn something, especially if it's with someone that's a bit different. And I think what I try to do as well, which is something I encourage a lot of people to do, is don't just listen to people that you'll like, whether it's to do with a subject that you like or anything else. Try to broaden your horizons. And this is massive with political stuff. Like, people will just listen, I don't want to listen to a podcast from this guy because he's on this side or whatever. I listen to both. And that's the whole point, is that if you're so insecure in your opinions that you can only just have the echo chamber of the same side telling you stuff, then are you really thinking for yourself, or are you just repeating other people's opinion? You heard someone else's opinion, then you just repeated it. You didn't think of that opinion yourself, did you? So it's good to hear both sides, hear lots of different people talking about a subject. You take it all in, you process it, then you spit out your own opinion. Then you're being yourself. Otherwise, you're just parroting someone else's, what someone else said. And that doesn't, I don't think it's free thinking at all.
I completely agree. And there is endless material out there.
Exactly.
There's really on absolutely everything from 3-hour podcasts to 3-minute podcasts. There's so much out there, and it's another wealth of knowledge that we should be really tapping into, and that other people should be tapping into. And
exactly. Yeah.
I completely agree that generally speaking, with a lot of things, that when I like you said, when I will look back on this on YouTube, it will be on my second screen. And because it's you're semi-visual on that. You're listening to it. Yeah. You're listening to it attentively, but you're still checking your email, whatever it is. But you're just you're keeping the visual flow with it. Now, you mentioned something with music. I'm going to bring this to a close, and quite nicely you semi-segued into that one. Music. You had posted something on Twitter, and I know you're a hip hop fan. We talked off camera this time. We talked off camera, whatever it was, a year and a half ago. We're both hip hop fans.
Yeah.
Mumble rap, yay or nay?
I sort of see it as, so I've been a fan of hip hop, like rap and R&B and all of it since, basically I was from when I was a teenager. So, I'm 28 now, so that's quite a few years ago. And I would say it's very dependent on, I think a lot of people, it's an easy thing to hate on. I'll put it that way. Like you hear it when you're sitting at home and you think that's stupid. How could anyone think that's good music? The thing is, when you go, you listen to a real lyrical rap song or something like that, and you think, wow, that's really good. Then you go to a nightclub or something or a bar, and you hear that same song played, and you're like, oh, wait, I can't make out the lyrics. People aren't interested in it because it's not so beat heavy. Then mumble rap is sort of the harsher way to put it, but a SoundCloud rapper would come on,
yes,
like Lil Pump or someone like that, and then everyone's sort of getting into it. I mean, the songs might be like lyrically be really simple. We'll use that word, but like in those scenarios, people in a nightclub or something, they just hear that one word being repeated, like Gucci Gang or something like that, and you hear everyone in the club, Gucci Gang, it's really fun. Or Esqueda and stuff, like another Lil Pump song, and like everyone will start saying it, and it's really fun. So I think Pitbull is probably the king of it. Like you listen to a Pitbull song while you're at home and you're like, man, these lyrics. And then you go to a club, go to a club and a Pitbull song comes on and everyone goes crazy. So it's like, I think people have to differentiate the two. There's sort of certain songs that you listen to. And I mean, it's not that you could only listen to one or the other when you're at home. I certainly listen to some SoundCloud rappers at home as well. And the songs are quite, can be quite fun to listen to. But I would say you definitely have to understand, I think, maybe the way they're made are for two sort of different situations, so to speak. They definitely, a lot of people use the term now club beats. And I think that's quite a good term to use. These are songs that are made for, the club, for a bar or whatever, to really just get it going and just have simple lyrics, big catchy, like catchphrase to the song, whatever that everyone can shout out as well. And I think that's the area where there's a bit of difference. With the R&B type stuff, I mean, I feel like that unfortunately has just sort of not died, but it's like on life support. Compared to the 2000s, there was a lot of really good R&B, and now it's seemingly gone away, which is quite sad. And I would say the same. I mean, I'm a big hip hop fan. This is a funny story. So in high school, my high school, anyway, it was kind of like who you could be friends with. This sounds so stupid saying it now, but like it was almost like who you could be friends with was based on which music you listen to. And so because I listened to a lot of hip hop, but I also listened to a lot of rock music. Yeah. So I was like, I remember this girl telling me, this was years ago, she said to me, she's like, oh, I can't be friends with you because you listen to hip hop. And I was like, I even remember back then, I was like, this is so dumb. And then like now because that was when like the emo music was like a big thing, and she was like really like that. And really emo. And so looking back, I was just like, even at the time I was like, that's stupid, but now looking back, I'm like, wow. But yeah, even on the same token, a lot of that punk rock emo music, I liked a lot of that. I would listen to a lot of Linkin Park, a lot of Limp Bizkit, that was like rap rock, and a lot of other just normal rock, heavy metal, like Megadeth and ones like that. Megadeth is probably my favorite. So I was sort of on both sides, and I would listen to both lots. And again, that was just because I feel like back then I felt like people would I just never wanted to contain myself to just one thing. Like I'll only listen to rock or something, hip hop. I just won't even listen to it. It's just garbage, they're not even playing an instrument or something. It's like, I would just think, that's just, you're not trying everything. The world's it's like saying I'm only going to eat one style of food for the rest of my life. And it's like, well, why would you? There's so many other varieties you can try.
Exactly. No matter how they were created,
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's, and it sounds kind of like pretentious, and I'm not trying to come across that way to say it, but it really is, it's not a pretentious thing to say because it's just so damn easy. Like, just listen to a podcast from a person that you may not like or that may challenge your opinions on something. Listen to music that you don't normally listen to. Like, give it a good chance. Maybe listen to a genre that you've previously maybe not been a huge fan of. If you're into hip hop and maybe you always thought all the SoundCloud rappers were just rubbish, hey, maybe give them a try and think about it through the whole thing of like, hey, this is just fun music. It's not supposed to be serious. You're not supposed to take it super serious. It's just fun. And I think the more people do that, the more, I think in general, things will be better, because closing yourself off to things is probably the worst thing you can ever do in terms of growing as a person. The more you close off, the less you will grow as a person. And everyone wants to grow as a person and better themselves. And so I think that's just another area. Music is just another area where you can
it's just another facet.
Try new things.
Of it.
Yeah. Try new things. Yeah.
Wow, Kevin, from the question mumble rap, yay or nay, that was deep, wise words, and you are absolutely correct, my man. Keep yourself open. Experience people, experience things, experience music, experience taste, whatever it is, across the whole spectrum, and you will be a better person. And if we're all better people, life is so much easier.
I think, definitely. Like it. I think. Well, I mean, what's your favorite? So out of, I'll throw this question to you. So out of the rappers now, the ones that not ones that have come up recently, but the ones that are still relevant now. You hear their songs maybe on the radio, or they're still relevant. In the general sense of the term, people still listen to their music. They're still making new music. Which ones do you think are sort of the top ones right now? Well, your favorites, I should say. Like, which ones do you usually default to listening to?
If I default to listen to whatever, it tends to be some underground rappers like Cannabis, Immortal Technique, that kind of thing.
Okay,
but they're severely like independent kind of rappers. Method Man, Redman are still hanging around in the periphery kind of thing. And a point that you made earlier as well about club songs, sorry, that I just want to get back to, is that let's not forget that some of the biggest lyricists or biggest rappers, even in those times, were making club bangers. That's something to remember, but a lot of people just kind of wiped that under the rug. So those are some that we definitely East Coast hip hop, Wu-Tang, and B.I.G. Those are the ones that I default to whenever. But I haven't done much trawling through newer hip hop or newer releases, and I'm not talking just about SoundCloud rappers or anything like that, but even in the underground scene, I've been kind of gravitating back towards classic rock, like Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin, that kind of thing. So I'm going through that treasure trove again now. So, and which are your top three, actually, of all time?
Oh, geez, my favorites of all time. That would be
hip hop now.
I would have to. I would have to really think about it. I couldn't say that without like thinking about it for like an hour.
I completely agree.
I know I wouldn't get it wrong. It's too much.
I completely hear you, because there's so much that I listen to that isn't the classics that I love, but there's some of the ones that are like on a holy grail for me still, but I don't listen to them every day. So that's quite hard. That's quite hard to.
It's difficult. I would say out of the newer ones anyway that I kind of default to, Logic's definitely up there. I think he makes incredibly good music. Very, especially in as far as the lyrics go, it's very meaningful and very impactful. On that same note, I think J. Cole does a very good job. Some of his songs and the lyrics, this goes for the next one as well, which is Kendrick Lamar. I would say both of them, sometimes their songs or whatever their lyrics, it's not that I disagree with it, but that it doesn't maybe sit that well with me, with the type of stuff they say, but sometimes. But that's the same for Logic as well.
Yeah, but they're good lyricists.
But that's the whole point of it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the whole point of it, is that it's supposed to, you're not supposed to just like exactly everything that they say. They're supposed to push the boundaries maybe in some way, or hold a mirror up to society, or say the things that people don't want them to say, or people don't want to admit, or whatever. Logic's song, 1-800 was exactly that, and that you would watch, especially if you watch the music video. I think for a lot of people, it would hit them quite hard. And so, and I think that's the whole point of it. So I'd say those three would be the ones I would say are kind of, but it's hard to say as well, because Kanye is another one that springs to mind. Definitely. Kanye has made a lot of good music, and he continues to, and he's a very creative person. So it's one of those things that I kind of bounce around.
It's hard to pinpoint. I know.
Yeah, but if there's one, it would be the one that I definitely pay the most attention to whenever he releases new songs is Logic, and I think that's
super.
Yeah, he's kind of come out of nowhere. Well, it's not that he came out of nowhere, but like his, I think, take on it is quite refreshing. I guess, in terms of touching subjects that I think other rappers sometimes were maybe a little bit wary to touch, in terms of like 1-800, and other ones he's done about sort of like mental health and all that sort of stuff, is like areas where they were like, we can't talk about that. And Logic was like, no, let's do it.
Emotional aspects of society,
Yeah, that sort of stuff. I can appreciate someone who is brave in that aspect and sort of challenges the entire sort of, challenges how things are. And Lil Dicky as well. I mean, it sounds like he does come across as, he does come across as quite comedic in ways, but he's also made some music that's, pretty deep and other stuff. And I think the fact that he doesn't take himself seriously and shows that it doesn't need to be serious. There's always been rappers that have been a bit more like would make sort of comedic songs. I mean, Eminem's made so many. But I think Lil Dicky sort of shows you can have a lot of fun with it as well, while also sort of getting across a larger point. The point might still be silly, but, he does it in his own way. So, and not always. There's a few songs he's made, So it's difficult, I would say. Definitely.
Cool. Well, listen, thank you very much for your input, and honored that you give us this time. Let the people know how they can hit you up, where they can find you, how they can support you, and give us your deets. Deets. Oh my god. Anyway, go ahead.
So my YouTube channel is the easiest place to find me. So just you can just put in youtube.com/C Tech Showdown, or just go on Google, search Tech Showdown, and you'll find me. I've been trying to put up more content lately, but I've had, sort of the kind of perfect storm of sickness, then feeling better, then get hit with something else. So I got sick with just like a flu. Then as I was getting over that, I had to get a vaccination to pass this health check I needed to get done. I got that vaccination, and apparently my immune system wasn't back up and running, so I got sick again. Then I got back after that, and then I got stung by a huge hornet, one of the Asian giant hornets.
That was disgusting, by the way. That was really that was a freakishly large thing. I looked at it and I had to turn the phone off.
When I grabbed it, it was like, because I crushed it in my hand after it stung me, and it was like crushing something large. yeah, it was big, and so that stung me on my hands, and that sort of screwed up my hand, and I couldn't use it properly for a few days, and then and that could have made me feel really like under the weather as well, because my body is fighting the poison. That one is okay, but they told me it's like 5 or more stings from those big hornets, and it's like you need to go to the hospital. So even with one, it like really, and then so I got over that, and then I passed the kidney stone like 3 days ago. So it was like 3 days ago. So it was like I just couldn't believe it. Like I was just the one thing after another, but I mean, it's character building, I guess, and you just get stronger out of it, and I think you just can't let it get you too down. Just keep soldiering on. So I just would make light of it and stuff like that, and make jokes like how I was doing on the Twitter with the hornet thing. Saying like, oh, I got stung by a hornet, but at least I found a Mountain Dew, which is like really hard to find here for some reason. There's always a positive to come out of it. So but it's hopefully now all that
you're done with the medical emergencies.
I think my positive way of looking at it is like, you appreciate the good times more when you've had a whole bunch of bad times. So I think it's good once you gotta take the good with the bad.
Exactly.
And so hopefully it's all behind me now.
Well, listen, thank you very much again. And thanks to our listeners or viewers who were watching on a second monitor or in the corner or whatever for joining in. And thank you to Kevin. And listen, we look forward to more content. We'll keep watching it. We'll keep liking, subscribe for sure. Check out his backlog or back catalog, and you'll enjoy it anyway. And listen, it's as always been a pleasure, and we will have another catch up sometime in the near future. Definitely.
No, thanks for having me.
You managed to listen to the Rum Boys talk on Random Urban Memories. Just like and subscribe where you can on all platforms.